Good evening, you are watching the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. First, the headlines. As vaccines continue to arrive, a number of countries around the world inoculate people against the coronavirus. The EU starts the evaluation stage after Brexit and says the agreement with Britain is positive for both sides. And China mulls to conduct talks on investment pact with the European Union. Those were the headlines. Now for the news in detail. The first consignment of Pfizer BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine has arrived in Muscat International Airport, containing 15,600 doses, while about 28,000 other doses will arrive by January. The Sultanate will officially commence the vaccination campaign next Sunday after the Ministry of Health prepared a vaccination strategy that covers 60% of the population divided into several stages, and the first phase will cover 20% of the target rate due to the limited supply in the current period, and they are among those with chronic diseases and medical staff. The battle to hold the pandemic, which has claimed more than 1.7 million lives so far, is far from over, despite the launching of mass vaccination campaigns. World Health Organization Chief Tedros Ghebreyesus said in a video message that vaccines are offering the world a way out of this tragedy, but one that it will take time. Tedros hailed the heart-wrenching sacrifices millions were making by staying away from loved ones on Christmas Day, adding that we must not squander their sacrifices, as he called for people to keep up the infection control measures. Europe, where a new strain of coronavirus is believed to spread much faster, has emerged in Britain today past 25 million confirmed cases. Last week, it became the first global region where more than 500,000 people have died of the virus. South Korea has reported its largest daily increase in coronavirus infections on Christmas Day, as the Prime Minister pleaded for vigilance to arrest a viral surge that has worsened hospitalizations and deaths. The 1,241 new cases confirmed today by the Korea Disease Control and Prevention Agency brought the country's case load to 54,770. COVID-19 patients have been registered in the last 24 hours. More than 870 of the new cases were from the Greater Capital Area, home to half of the country's 51 million population, where more than 500 infections have been linked to a huge prison in Seoul. The country has been expanding its mass testing program to slow the rate of transmissions. Officials are also clamping down on private gatherings through January the 3rd, shutting down national parks and ski resorts and setting fines for restaurants if they receive a group of 5 people and more. Britain and the European Union struck a trade deal yesterday after 10 months of intense negotiation, allowing them to soften the economic shock of Brexit. When the UK leaves the EU single market at the new year, it will not now face tariffs on cross-channel commerce, despite breaking off half a century of close partnership. The EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said, citing English playwright William Shakespeare, that parting is such a sweet sorrow. She urged the 440 million Europeans remaining in the 27-nation union to put the drama of the 4 years since Britain's Brexit referendum behind them and to look to the future. The final 2,000-page agreement was held up by a last-minute dispute over fishing As both sides haggled over the access, EU fishermen will get to Britain waters after the end of the year. China will conduct talks on the investment pact with the European Union at its own pace, its foreign ministry said today, raising doubts about whether the deal can be sealed by the end of the year. Negotiations for the EU-China Comprehensive Agreement on Investment, which would grant European companies greater access to the Chinese market, had gone on for 6 years. An EU official had said last week that a deal was close after a push from Germany, which holds the EU presidency until the end of this year and the biggest European exporter to China. However, the latest comments by the Chinese government suggest otherwise. A ministry spokesman said China will conduct talks at its own pace on the premise of safeguarding its security and development interests. His comments echoed that of the Commerce Ministry, which said that reaching of the agreement requires effort from both sides to meet each other halfway. Israeli missile strikes on Syria killed at least 6 fighters today. The dead were all foreign paramilitaries fighting alongside President Bashar al-Assad forces. The missiles, which were fired from Lebanese airspace, hit positions held by the militias in Masyaf district of Hama province. One also targeted a government-run research center where surface-to-surface missiles are developed and stored. The research center in Masyaf has been hacked several times by the Israeli strikes in the recent years. Syrian state news agency SANA said air defenses intercepted missiles fired by Israel on Masyaf. The air defenses hit most missiles before they reached their target. The Israeli activity in the skies was heard over from neighboring parts of Lebanon, and Israel has launched hundreds of strikes in Syria since the start of the civil war in 2011. Still to come, a news bulletin. Organized by the Royal Camel Corps, the camel races are concluded in the Wilaya of Saham. Welcome back to the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. Omani Women's Association in the Wilaya of Al Kamil Wal Wafi launched an exhibition for homemade products under the theme My Craft, My Future. Members of the Women's Association participated in the event that aims to market and introduce homemade products to the local and regional markets. The exhibition also aims to empower local women to be self-reliant and economically independent by engaging themselves in income-generating activities and expanding the reach of their businesses from their immediate surroundings to other markets in Oman and the neighboring countries. Such exhibitions seek also to minimize the impact of COVID-19 pandemic on homemade businesses and exchange of experiences between female business owners on the best method to promote their crafts and products. The fifth stage of the annual camel race was concluded in the Wilaya of Saham in North Al-Batna Governorate. The two-day camel racing contest took place in Saihat Tayyibat racing track and was organized by the Royal Camel Corps. The competition included 45 rounds for all camel age categories. The camel race witnessed a fierce competition from the competitors who came from various places in Oman to participate in this annual camel race that aims to maintain the tradition of camel sports. Camel breeders and owners have expressed their gratitude for the sport and the care extended in organizing camel races in various wilayats of Oman across the year. Heritage inns give the tourists and the visitors a close insight into the Omani social, cultural customs and tradition and handicrafts. The following report sheds light on an antique inn in the wilaya of Nizwa.
In the vicinity of Nizwa Fort and in Al-Aqar district in particular, these ancient houses, which were built over 400 years ago, have been recently restored by Omani youth, bringing them back to life by transforming them into heritage inns, one of which is called Antique Inn.
This antique heritage inn is located in Nizwa city, in Al-Aqar place, nearby Nizwa Fort and Nizwa Souk. Antique Inn Hotel is a traditional house style which is explained the way how Omani past people staying and living. Antique Inn has around 27 rooms which is in different traditional style. The inn has some facilities, for example, Omani Sabla and the top roof sitting area, view of Nizwa Fort, and mini museum which has small things used in the past. Also, we have there are also classic cars which is they take a tour in the around of the city.
Antique Inn comprises an exquisite set of traditional and historical items that decorate its rooms and corridors, reminding the visitors of the ancient history of Oman.
Antique Inn is a beautiful place for people to visit, to know the traditional heritage and history in Nizwa and Oman. It is nice to know the traditional food and what people use it in the old.
Actually, I am taking my annual leave right now, so I wanted to spend some quality time with my family. So I searched in internet and got information regarding this antique in Nizwa. It's a very nice place, very close to Nizwa Fort and Nizwa Souk. Very traditionally maintained, extremely beautiful place, and you can spend 1 day or 2 days here comfortably with your family. And I would recommend everyone to have a trial with this antique inn in Nizwa.
Such initiatives to make the most of the archaeological houses and featuring their cultural and historical treasures represent an added value for the tourism sector to contribute to the development of the national economy. Antique Inn provides the visitors with a genuine opportunity to go back in time and experience staying in Omani homes hundreds of years ago. صالح بقلفان الرحبي, ولاية of Nizwa الداخلية, Governorate.
This is the Sultanate of Oman television. Before we end tonight's news bulletin, here are the main points once again. As vaccines continue to arrive, a number of countries around the world inoculate people against the coronavirus. The EU starts the evaluation stage after Brexit and says the agreement with Britain is positive for both sides. And China moves to conduct talks on investment pact with the European Union. With that, we come to the end of tonight's news bulletin. From all of us here at the newsroom and the studios, thank you for watching and have a good night.